Hello everyone. My last video MCQs of head and neck part 1. I discussed questions on osteology of head and neck. So in this video I will discuss and explain the questions most important MCQs up to the infratemporal fossa of head and neck. The first question, which layer of scalp is regarded as dangerous layer? Options are subcutaneous layer, aponeurotic layer, loose areolar tissue, pericranium. The answer is the loose areolar tissue. So with this image you can see the layers of the scalp. There are 5 layers of the scalp. You can remember with its mnemonic, the name itself, SCALP. So in this image you can see it is the first layer known as the skin. Second layer it is that connective tissue. Third layer aponeurotic layer. Fourth layer loose areolar tissue and pericranium. So these are the 5 layers of the scalp. So scalp is that loose areolar tissue, that is the 4th layer, is called dangerous layer of the scalp because the blood and pus freely tend to collect in this layer. If pus collect in this layer, the infection may travel readily along these emissary veins into the intracranial venous sinuses, so which leads to thrombosis, so which may be fatal. Hence, the 4th layer known as that loose areolar tissue called dangerous layer of the scalp. Second question, select incorrect statement regarding the sternocleidomastoid muscle. Options are, it tilts the head to the same side, it overlaps the carotid sheath, it is supplied by the cranial root of accessory nerve, it is crossed superficially by the external jugular vein. The question is incorrect statement about the sternocleidomastoid muscle. So the answer is supplied by cranial root of accessory nerve. So we'll see that what are that. So you can see the image. It tilts that head to the same side, and in the second image you can see. So this is the landmark at the neck region. Sternocleidomastoid muscle. It overlaps the carotid sheath, and in this image you can see that external jugular vein lies over the sternocleidomastoid muscle. So answer is it is supplied by the cranial root of accessory nerve because this muscle is supplied by the spinal root of accessory nerve. Third question, all of the following derivatives of deep cervical fascia except pretracheal fascia, prevertebral fascia, stylomandibular ligament and spinomandibular ligament. So the answer is spinomandibular ligament. So the deep cervical fascia consists of 3 layers, that is investing layer, pretracheal layer and prevertebral layer. So whereas the stylomandibular ligament, so you can see this diagram where stylomandibular ligament, it is from the styloid process to the angle of the mandible. It is that modification of that investing layer. Whereas spinomandibular ligament from sphenoid bone to that mandible. So it is that unossified intermediate part of the Meckel's cartilage. So it is that first pharyngeal pouch. Cartilage of the first pharyngeal pouch is that arch is the Meckel's cartilage. So here the pretracheal fascia, prevertebral fascia, stylomandibular ligaments are the derivatives of deep fascia. The answer is spinomandibular ligament. All of the following are contents of carotid sheath except internal carotid artery, external carotid artery, internal jugular vein and vagus nerve. So here you can see this image. The green color one is the carotid sheath. It covers the internal jugular vein, vagus nerve and internal carotid artery. So you can see that external carotid artery lies outside the sheath. So the answer is external carotid artery. So next question, which of the following lymph nodes are called Wernicke's lymph nodes? Options are left infraclavicular, left supraclavicular, right infraclavicular and right supraclavicular. So the answer is left supraclavicular lymph nodes are called Wernicke's lymph nodes. So in this image you can see that left side of the neck there is a swelling. So the most common cause of swellings in this posterior triangle are due to lymph node enlargements. So usually the supraclavicular lymph nodes, when it enlarged, so usually in the tuberculosis, Hodgkin's disease, malignancy of the breast, arm, chest, so the supraclavicular lymph nodes will be commonly involved. So whereas in the left supraclavicular lymph nodes called Wernicke's lymph nodes, they are commonly involved as that enlarged and is that hard node. So it is called Troyer's sign. So it is strongly indicative that there is a metastasis from the cancer of the stomach, cancer of other abdominal organs and cancer of the testes. So because these nodes takes its supply from these lymph vessels in the abdominal cavity. So hence these nodes also called the signal nodes. So this left supraclavicular lymph nodes are the answer. Next question. All of the following structures emerge underneath the anterior border of parotid gland except zygomatic branch of the facial nerve, parotid duct, retromandibular vein, transverse facial vessels. So we'll see this. In this image you can see from the anterior border of parotid gland. So you can see the zygomatic branch of facial nerve is emerging and transverse facial artery is emerging and parotid duct is emerging. So you can see that retromandibular vein, it lies within the parotid gland. So it passes within the parotid gland. So this is the retromandibular vein. So that answer is there is retromandibular vein. So all the structures emerge from the anterior border of parotid gland except retromandibular vein. The parotid duct opens in the vestibule of mouth opposite the crown of which of the following tooth? Upper first molar, upper second molar, upper third molar, upper first premolar. So we'll see that. So here in this diagram you can see the parotid gland and parotid duct. The parotid duct opens into that second upper molar tooth. So the answer is here upper second molar tooth. All of the following arteries arise from the first part of maxillary artery except middle meningeal artery, posterior superior alveolar artery, inferior alveolar artery, accessory middle meningeal artery. So the answer is posterior superior alveolar artery. So what are the branches of first part of maxillary artery? So maxillary artery is a branch of terminal branch of external carotid artery. So this maxillary artery divided into three parts by the lateral pterygoid muscle. So here in this image you can see all the blue color are branches from the first part, whereas this green color they are from the second part, whereas pink color branches are from the third part. So here the first part you can see middle meningeal artery and accessory middle meningeal artery and inferior alveolar artery. These are the branches, whereas posterior superior alveolar artery you can see this is that branch of the third part. So the answer is here posterior superior alveolar artery is that answer of this question. So which of the following muscles opens the mouth? Temporalis muscle, lateral pterygoid muscle, medial pterygoid muscle and masseter muscle. So that movements of the mouth by mainly the mastication muscles are responsible for opening and closing of the mouth. So when that the answer here it is lateral pterygoid muscle. So we'll see. So these are all muscles of mastication, that is temporalis, masseter, and second image you can see lateral pterygoid and medial pterygoid muscles. So here that opening of the mouth mainly by the lateral pterygoid. So remaining three, temporalis, medial pterygoid and masseter, these three are helpful for the closing of the mouth. The temporomandibular joint is commonly dislocated. medially, laterally, anteriorly and posteriorly. So the mandible is dislocated usually anteriorly. So when the mouth is open, the mandibular condyles move forward and lie underneath that articular eminences. So this is the most unstable position of the temporomandibular joint. So when the temporomandibular joint dislocated, excessive opening of the mouth as during that yawning and sudden violence or convulsive spasms of the lateral pterygoid muscle. So this is that these are the causes for this. The answer here it is anteriorly the common dislocation. In this image you can see that usually that is dislocated anteriorly. So next question, select the incorrect statement about the otic ganglion. It is functionally related to the mandibular nerve. It's topographically related to the mandibular nerve. It is 2 to 3 mm in size. It is located lateral to the tensor palati muscle. So what is otic ganglion? It is a small parasympathetic ganglion. It connected to the mandibular division of trigeminal nerve and it provides a relay station to the secretomotor fibers to the parotid gland. So topographically usually it is intimately related to the mandibular nerve, but functionally it is related to the glossopharyngeal nerve. So here in this image you can see that otic ganglion. So functionally it is related with the glossopharyngeal nerve. So that the answer here it is incorrect statement, that is functionally related to the mandibular nerve. So friends, if you like my video, share it, subscribe and like the channel. So I will come with few more important MCQs and their solutions in that head and neck. So thanks for listening.